See our news, bad news is coming to you. Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, tune in to see our news, bad news is coming to you. When the media tells a story about us, it's a story we cannot trust. Told always from a European point of view. The time to tell our story is overdue. Oh, yeah. Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, tune in to see our news, bad news is coming to you. Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, tune in to see our news, bad news is coming to you. The media stories are negative. Rarely is it positive.
Good morning. Welcome to Boston Black News. I'm your host, Ron Bell. I am so excited about today. It's really hot. It is so hot. You know, it makes you make one of them faces, you know, them hot faces. But anyway, I'm really excited about today because there's a lot going on in the world. And June 27th really kind of put up the antennas on what's going on in this presidential race that seemed like an SNL skit. It was just, oh man, it was very painful to watch. But today I have a special guest, a political analyst and commentator for NBC 10 Boston, as well as a community organizer, political operative, and she just got a long list, vice president, all this, and a bag of chips. But she is here with us this morning to give us her commentary on the presidential election. And you know, even though we have the presidential, I do want to remind people that September 3rd is the state primary. We have state representatives up for a re-election, election. We have the congressional leaders. We have governor's council, clerk, of course. You know, there are other offices that you can vote locally on September 3rd, 7 a.m. polls open, close at 8 p.m. Make sure you cast your ballot. We have Jaquetta Van Zant here this morning. Oh, wow, Jaquetta from June 20th. Good morning.
Good morning.
You look vibrant and ready to go and ready to set this place on fire.
Well, it's Friday, so I'm very thankful for that.
Thank God.
Yes.
Well, what's going on? I mean, because, you know, I thought of you immediately. I was like, I wonder what she's going to say.
So, you know, there are a couple of layers to this. One, there's a huge surge of apathetic voters here in the country, but especially in Massachusetts, because we're a safe state. We're not a bellwether state. Like, we're not one of the states that are in play. So people are often saying like, oh, I don't think my vote counts. But what I want people to remember is that everything you do is political.
Thank you.
When you turn on the shower in the morning, that's federally regulated. And when you use electricity, that's regulated. Everything that you touch is political. And I especially love the people who live on subsidies and say, I'm not political. But your rent just got paid, which was a federally regulated by a Democrat, Lyndon Johnson, that you would even have a subsidy like that. So, you know, I think a lot of times, especially in our community, we have to get back to stop telling people like, oh, you know, people died for you to vote. Yes, that's true. Right. But we need to tell people to understand why it's important for them to vote. Now, moving on to the presidential election, this is an absolute show. I've heard the cries for people to say for Joe Biden to step down, and I'm a little weary about that because I think a little bit of it is ageism. And I'll be the first to say I've been asking boomers to get out of the way for a long time. They're not going anywhere. But in this instance, we don't have another choice right now.
Right.
And I know people are saying, you know, there's a short list, Gretchen Whitmire. Then it gives like space for RFK Jr., which we don't know why he's in the race. And then there are other people that they should be considering, Raphael Warnock, Hakeem Jeffries. The problem is we need to win. And
Right.
with 10 weeks left, because that's all we have left, we don't have enough space to run an accurate and effective campaign. And you and I both know this, Ron. It takes more than 10 weeks
That's
to even
right.
start up something.
To get that blood boiling.
Right.
I mean, it's...
And the Democratic Party, I believe, you know, they're not loyal at all. Mitch McConnell basically had a stroke on live TV, and the Republicans circled the wagons around him. And the problem that I have with that is this man had a bad moment.
Right.
And we've all had bad moments. And I've sat in debate camps with candidates and had to whip them in shape. I have stood behind debate backstages and cringed at something my candidate has said.
Right.
But that does not call for a resignation. And if we're going to talk about resignations, then half of the Massachusetts legislature needs to step down. If we're saying you're too old because you're 70, most of them are 70. Or if we have 2 senators who are over the age of 70, they need to resign.
Right.
For different reasons. But but if we're talking about ageism, half of Congress would have to resign. And I find it interesting that the people who are calling for these resignations are old white men telling an old white man to step down. It's like, so are you on the chopping block? I have 5 sisters.
Right.
And I'm the youngest of them. And we move as a group. We talk as a group. We have one voice, one collective. And that is how we were raised. There's no one got to be on the opposition team. You couldn't be an op.
Right.
I feel like that's the same way the Democratic Party should be thinking. The Republicans have had years of being able to round the base. When Obama got in, and I think people forget this, Republicans went to work January 20th of 2009. They started to turn the base red so that in a couple of years, this is where they are. They're in control of everything. And I just find it interesting that we're talking about ageism from people who are 2 steps away from him.
Right.
Maxine Waters should resign.
Right.
We should have had John Lewis. He died in his seat, and Democrats do that. And he died with his district not being very well taken care of. No disrespect to John Lewis, but it was one of the poorest and blackest areas of Atlanta. And then when he died, remember, it was like 121 people ran for the seat.
Right.
That's not how we should play this game.
That's right.
Republicans do it this way. Okay, Sam, I'm going to retire in 3 years. I'm going to bring you into my office. You're going to learn everything you can from my political director. And then once I retire, I'm going to bet you for my seat. And I'm going to take you all around. You're going to meet all my donors so that then Sam can take over the seat and the agenda keeps getting
training your replacement, right?
Not Democrats. They're like, we will die in this
Die.
seat. We will
crawl.
Yeah, you cannot have my seat. You need to get out of my way. Like, okay.
Right. Even locally, when we look at the folks that are calling for Biden to resign, we have congressional leaders in Newton.
Yeah.
Jake Auchincloss, is that how you say his name? And then you have Seth Moulton. They're both adamant about Biden leaving. And I haven't heard anything from our senators, Markey and Elizabeth Warren.
Because how can they talk? How can they talk?
Right.
Now, I will say, out of the 2 of them, Elizabeth Warren is loyal to the Democratic Party.
Right.
And she's loyal to her base. She's loyal to her policies. I cannot say the same for the other senator. And, since I think he's been in office since 1978. That's longer than I've been alive.
Wow.
And
we're going to talk about that intergenerational, Generation X, baby boomers and all that. We want to get into that conversation too. But also, I read in Politico this morning that the Democrats, although Biden is staying in, that there are Democrats still looking at the numbers for Kamala. If she was atop the ticket, and surprisingly, I heard Marty Walsh as her running mate. This came out in Politico this morning. And I was like, but he said he's supporting Biden, just as Deval Patrick said he's supporting Biden, unless there's a competitive race. And then he said that,
I saw that.
Well,
listen, so the Marty Walsh thing is very interesting.
Yeah.
But, nobody's going to go against their boss, right? Like, so he works for the administration or worked for the administration, so he's not going to go against his boss. Same thing with Joe Kennedy. He's like special envoy to Ireland or something like that. That doesn't mean that we should not be building the bench with some of these people.
We should have been doing that all along.
Right.
Civic engagement should be all year long.
And I think what people don't give Marty Walsh credit for is the fact that he understands politics and he understands political people. That is what gives him the advantage over every other mayor.
He's a political operative.
Outside of Menino.
Right.
He absolutely understands the difference between city politics and state politics and how to blend them. That is his superpower. And that is what made him an effective mayor.
Effective.
Not popular,
right.
Effective. And I think a lot of people want to be popular mayors as opposed to effective mayors. And so I could see Marty Walsh being on the bench. I don't know if he'd make it all the way to 1600, but he certainly belongs in the administration. He's got a lot of gifts that people don't give him credit for.
So what do you think? I mean, you're
Who would I think would be a good person to replace Biden? I mean, if I were not a loyalist, I would probably go with a Gretchen Whitmer, Raphael Warnock ticket. Not that I don't, and look, Kamala is my soror.
Yeah, I know. I was great.
She's my link sister.
But there's a big but.
Yes.
And we're not endorsing candidates
We're not endorsing.
We're not endorsing. We're having a conversation as we should. And we're going to have callers calling in here in your opinion, 617-282-0685. And you were saying.
But we need people who are electable, and we saw that Kamala is not electable,
right?
And that makes a big difference. And when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, but we love her," and it's like, it's not about loving somebody; it's about the numbers game,
right?
And she just could not pull in the numbers because she was so West Coast. She's a smart lady, and maybe in 4 or 5 years, I think she could. But her last race, she just couldn't pull the numbers. And right now, I think we need Michigan, Wisconsin, Virginia, and maybe it's just those 3 states that are in play. We need those
which
states.
are swing states.
Which are swing states.
Pennsylvania, right?
Oh, sorry. Pennsylvania. That's the 4th one. And so when you're from the West Coast, it's a very different ball game.
Right.
And so all of these that sit in this area, you need to be able to pull them in. And I just don't think she's strong enough to do that.
Right. You know, I know you worked in the Obama administration and you understand politics. You know, I worked on his campaign. Actually, Ayanna Pressley and I worked on his campaign.
Oh, okay.
We did Massachusetts churches and so forth. And you see the difference. You've been exposed to organizing on a national level as opposed to the local. And you had mentioned Marty Walsh understanding city and state politics, and we also have a lot of folks don't know the difference.
No,
the 3 branches of government, the tree
they don't
of
know
political,
we have 3 branches:
the executive, judicial, the legislative. They don't know the difference from the. Right. So we're trying to do this here to teach our folks, so they can make that connection, Jaquetta. And I wanted you to come in because I know you have a perspective and you're very bold about your comments because you say some of the things that people think about.
Yes.
So I'm giving you the green light.
Well, I appreciate that. So let me tell you why I do that.
Okay.
And I have to remind people, I worked my way up from a field organizer. My very first campaign was Willie Mae Allen.
Right.
And I worked for free because Cheryl Crawford was not paying. But
you got to forgive her.
I do. And I will roll the red carpet out for Cheryl every time.
Right.
But you know, I worked my way up, and so I don't feel like I owe anybody a pass because nobody said, here's a job in my office, here's a job in my administration. I worked my way to get there. There was no nepotism. I could have used my parents' connections, but I was told by my parents, don't do that. Right. So that's why I feel like I can say whatever I want to people, about people, and for people because I've worked my way here. Right. But you know, if you're going to give me the green light on some things, this administration is faltering. We're losing time. Right. And it's been 2 weeks and we've talked about the same thing for the past 2 weeks while Republicans are snapping up votes and really getting out there and passing their disgusting rhetoric around. Right. But I also want people to understand, because I don't think Donald Trump gets this. Donald Trump thinks that the president makes executive decisions every day. That is not true. That is not how the presidency works. He is essentially a press secretary for the country. He goes out and speaks on behalf of the country. Right. Congress has the power. And what I try to tell people is, like, if you're going to talk about politics and you really want to be involved, you need to look at your congressional delegation. That's right. And your congressional delegation does not get a pass because they have a D behind their name or they're black or they're female. Everybody is subject to my criticism. That's right. And everybody should be subject to everyone else's, every voter's criticism. We've gotten in the habit, especially on the Democratic side, of just giving people, well, they're a Democrat, so I'm going to vote for them. And I don't think that that's the right thing to do because everybody in our congressional delegation has made some kind of mistake and or a bad decision or policy. I often look at how are they authoring legislation, if they're authoring legislation, and is that legislation going to be effective? And what we've seen over the last few months is people get caught up in the celebrity of these people. Right. I have I like Jasmine, Congressman I can't think of her last name right now. Congressman Jasmine, she was the one that went after Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
But I was also embarrassed.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, I was embarrassed for her and by her because my position is, yes, look, you're wearing a wig. You got on eyelashes.
Right.
That seems to be part of the new narrative of how women validate themselves. And this woman zoned in on that insecurity, and it hit a nerve with her.
Stung her.
And she responded.
Right.
What Jasmine could have done was kept it classy with a K and went over and just...
I missed that. This must be in my baby boomer moment. You said a K?
I call it classy with a K because you can still be classy and then have a ratchet moment when you sting somebody.
Okay. All right.
But I throw shade at people all the time, right to their face. They don't even know it. That's why I call it classy with a K. Like,
okay.
I
thought it was just
insulted you.
It's all right though. It's all right because you know
No,
what?
not you.
I ask questions. I don't sit up there and because I remember when I first went in the governor's office, right? And Ron Marlowe and David Seamus, I believe Seamus, yeah, they were giving all these acronyms, right?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and they were like,
people love alphabet soup.
Yeah, they were just going down the list, and I was sitting there like, wait a second, did I not get the memo? Right? And so I'm just sitting there. And so finally, I went like this. And of course, Duvall's eyebrow went up to here, right? Because he looked at me. And I said, listen, I don't know what was sent out, but I don't know what's going on. What does this mean? Do you know all the white guys and the white people after the meeting was like, thanks, Ron. Thank you, man. I was like, what's the matter? They were like, we've been faking it. Oh, and we run the state? That is scary. Yes, anyway.
Yes. But so, and then I watched a couple because I always watch Fox News because I want to make sure I know what the enemy is thinking. And, Marjorie Taylor Greene got on there and said, well, now I know how to get to her.
Right.
And it's like, for me, Jasmine, you never let people see what you think or how you feel.
Right.
What is it that Don Corleone says? He says, you never let the person across the table know what you're thinking.
Right.
When he's talking to Santino, who's a hothead.
Right.
And I think that's what she did. But that's the world we live in now, where people feel like clapbacks give them clout. I'm doing a TEDx talk in September for Suffolk, and my topic is civic discourse and ... So it's civic discourse and the rise of clout chasing.
And where's that going to be and what date?
It's September 27th at Suffolk University. I'll make sure you guys have
make
it.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's a couple of levels to this. Like there's clout chasing in the form of black love. There's clout chasing in the form of artistry.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of people in Congress are now clout chasing as opposed to legislating, and I think that's a problem.
Wow, that's deep. Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that because everyone wants to be seen, and we have a friend of mine calls it romantic politics, and it's not. Pull up your sleeve, knocking on doors face to face on the ground.
Right.
That's if the Democrats want to see Joe in that seat, that's going to have to be the move.
Right.
And not sending out folks that don't look like folks in communities that will not accept you. They will slam the door in your face.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying.
Well, you saw that happen during the Hillary Clinton campaign,
right, exactly.
where she felt like her and Robbie Mook made the decision that they weren't going to certain places because they didn't deem it important enough.
Right.
And it cost her the election, among other things.
Right.
But when it comes to a numbers game, you have to go everywhere. Hillary did not have it locked up.
Right.
And even though they had started this whole, I think it was called Ready for Hillary or Ready to Run or something like that. They had started that 3 years ahead. Adam Parkamenko, I don't know if you've ever met him. He's amazing. He's a wonderful political operative. But he started Ready for Hillary 3 years before she even ran.
Okay.
And it was a groundswell. It was kind of trying to catch lightning in a bottle the way we did with Obama. And he had all of the stuff in place. And then the campaign comes in and the donors come in and completely change the idea.
Wow.
And it cost her the election because Hillary Clinton probably, in my opinion, outside of Dolly Madison, was one of the smartest, and Michelle Obama, was one of the smartest first ladies ever.
Wow.
I think Hillary Clinton is brilliant. Her personality is a little bit, but I think she's brilliant. And she understands policy. She's a policy wonk.
Right.
But we never got to see any of that because
Right.
so many people were so caught up in the celebrity of her husband, their administration, what they did or didn't do, who they did or didn't do.
Right.
It was just a lot of that. So
Right.
I feel like right now where we're at a crossroads. We could either go one way, which is we can take the L on this one and build our bench, or we can get him through this next 4 years if he makes it through the next 4 years, and we can build our bench with the current lineup that we're thinking about right now: Gretchen, Raphael, Hakeem, Joe, all those people.
I got you.
So,
Yeah.
and this to me is like you ever had a bad relationship and you keep coming back and forth with the ex? You're like, okay, well, yeah, you can, hi, how you doing? And then it's like, and then it's like, I hate him, I hate her.
Right.
And then it's like, but hi, how you doing? Can you come by? Like, it's the worst type of, it's toxic. We have a toxic relationship with the Democratic Party right now.
Right. So I'm going to back up. In the 2020 presidential election, the Kaiser Family Foundation did a survey, and they went to 50 states, and out of the 50 states, Massachusetts black voter turnout came in last at 31% compared to our white counterparts, 71%, 51% turnout as far as Hispanics. What do we do? I've been pounding this pavement for 30 years. I've been wanting to get folks engaged. As you mentioned at the onset of this broadcast, you had said that people are apathetic. Are they apathetic?
Yes.
Do they care? Do they not know the difference between a state senator and a U.S. senator? Do they not know the three branches of government: legislature, executive, judicial?
Do you want nice or do you want honest?
I want honest, Jaquetta. That's why I invite you in here.
So if I'm being
You think
honest,
I got up at 7 o'clock this morning to get you in here? Phone ringing off the hook. When are you starting?
So here's the honest truth. We fumbled.
Come on now.
When Duvall left office and there was nobody black on the bench, we fumbled. He fumbled. And I think as amazing as he is, there's no reason why we haven't had another person of color in a state that claims to be so liberal and so diverse when we know it's really not.
Right.
And so because of that, people don't see representation unless they live in the city of Boston. And we just got diversity when Ayanna and Andrea and Michelle stepped on the council.
Right.
And that was still in this part of the century.
Right.
So this was
And we
not-
still don't have an African American on the city council out of 13 members.
Well, Tanya's there.
Cape Verde.
That's
No,
Oh, you
I didn't
know
say
what?
no.
Let me put my glasses
No. I say it's all black.
Yeah.
I
But
say
you're
it-
saying not a black American.
Black American,
Got you.
African American, Black American, whatever. We've been called so
Sure.
many different things.
I
It's
know.
like,
My
what's
mother
up?
called me colored the other day. I was
No,
like,
she
okay. I
didn't.
was like, all right. She's like,
She
you're
said
acting colored. Okay.
Well,
She's the only one that can get away with that.
I was gonna say they still use that.
My mother.
Wow.
But she's trying to, when she's roasting me, yes.
Colored. Wow, I haven't heard
but-
that in a long time.
You're right. We don't have enough representation,
Right.
and so that is our fault. So when people don't see representation, they then think the government's not for me. There's nothing they can do for me. And look, the city council of Boston just started to behave themselves because they were a hot mess 2 years ago.
Right.
And in my opinion, there's some there that are still a hot mess and need. They need a good roasting. And
Okay.
I'm happy to do that, and I do that to their face as well. But I think we fumbled the ball. And yes, there are tons of apathetic voters. If you think of Springfield, which is our biggest city in Massachusetts, if you look at their numbers, they have a low voter turnout amongst African Americans, and they have a huge black
Second
base.
largest,
Who's
Boston.
I thought Springfield was bigger than Boston. Is it? Okay.
Boston is number one.
All right,
because
somebody
I
gonna be
didn't
mad
knock
about
on
that.
it. I didn't knock on every door in Boston
Somebody
and
gonna be
Springfield.
mad
no,
about that.
no, let me just. I know they will. No, let me just in Springfield. Remember when we were working on Duvall's campaign? You know how we do the leaflets on cars.
Sure.
And there were certain black elected officials did not want us to turn out the vote or increase voter turnout. So we had to work around them.
Because
So
they had probably been in office for 150
there you go.
years. And
There we go again,
And when you turn
holding
out
on.
new voters, you run the risk of incumbents losing.
So what we decided to do is organize while they were sleeping. So we painted the city blue. You know, we had
love
the
that.
Duval,
I
and
love
then they
that.
woke up like. So they have an ordinance now that you can't put flyers on cars anymore.
Oh, in Springfield?
In Springfield.
Oh, Lord.
Isn't that something? But
That's
anyway,
terrible.
I figured I'd throw that in.
But
there.
but I'm saying, we fumbled the ball on that.
Right.
And that is our fault as organizers, because we didn't build the bench, and we did not hold people like Duval accountable for saying, like, you need to tap somebody who looks like you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he felt like he didn't have that responsibility. Maybe he felt like, look,
I did
just
my
here,
eight-
right. I'm here to do my thing. I'm gonna head to the Cape. I'll see y'all there. Like,
Well, he did appoint Mo
Right.
to a U.S. Senate.
right. And Mo was like, look, I'm just here for.
I'm from North Carolina.
I'm not here for a long time. I love that.
Well, let's not go down that road. 'cause them guys-
But speaking of Mo,
Mm-hmm.
Mo will still talk to voters
Right.
about voting.
Okay,
Like
good.
every time I see him speak, the conversation always turns to, you have a responsibility. And it is what it is.
We all have responsibility. That's why we created this booklet, Making Boston Government Work for You. There are pictures of your elected officials. They are no longer able to hide. They cannot hide. You have their we didn't put their cell phone numbers in there. We put their email addresses and their contact information. And I must say, if they do not return your phone call, just go on down there. Just knock on the door.
But they are opening they do now have like this open door policy. Like
Yes.
Ruthie will take a phone call.
Right.
If she sees you on the street, she'll stop. Like I think she's a very effective city council president.
Yeah.
She also understands.
She's also a BLS alum, Boston Latin School. So I got to give her
well.
props.
Listen,
Yeah.
she's very smart.
Yeah.
But she understands her relationship with the mayor's office, not with just the mayor. She understands the relationship with the mayor's office, and she plays that very well.
Right.
But it's hard when you have a mayor who can be a little bit polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Michelle is polarizing. And I think that adds to apathetic voters again. She doesn't have to be perfect, but yeah, there's some things that, voters have seen. I often look behind the curtain because I never think about the political person.
Right.
I could care less about a lot of those folks in terms of like, where they eat, who they're dating. I just don't care about stuff like that, because I'm sure somebody gonna write a book about me. But it does matter to me that you're staying engaged with voters, especially in communities of color. And I just feel like that this administration, this mayoral administration, they're lacking there. And the open streets is cute, but I'm not their audience. I'm not going to sit out in the middle of, Dudley Street on a hot day, listening to local artists scream and shout over the microphone. I'm not going to do that.
Right. So are you pleased with the administration, and do you think that there's been progress in the city of Boston as relates to Black Americans, Black people? Let's say that.
So I'm never pleased with any of the administrations. And because I
And,
feel like
you grew up here. You're from Boston.
I'm from Boston, right? I have to
you can
remind
talk-
people that.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
from
So,
Boston.
yeah, right.
I
yeah.
grew up in Hyde Park.
Mission
I
Hill.
live
Yeah.
in.
I was to throw that in there.
I live in Roxbury.
Right.
I get my hair done on Blue Hill Avenue.
Okay.
I get my nails done on Dudley Street. So
Right.
my dollar circulates 3 or 4 times in Boston before it leaves.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I'm never happy with any administration. What I think about this administration is there's a lot of talent up there.
Right.
But I think they all got caught up in it being historical. And they forgot that there was work to do.
Right.
And so because of that, people are like, what is happening?
Right.
We don't feel connected to this administration.
Right. And it's good to have Black folk in the administration,
Sure.
but Black folks that's going to be effective and get other Black folks so that we can help other Black folk on the ground.
Right.
Carla, we're live on Boston Black News.
Hey, how's it going, Ron? It's Chris Jones.
Hey, Chris Jones, how you doing, man? Now,
Man, I'm great. I'm loving the conversation.
okay.
we're having.
Hold on 1 second. Do we know who this is?
I don't.
Dr. Chris Jones was the Democratic nominee for governor in Arkansas.
Oh, get out.
He's from Arkansas. He was the Tell them who you are, Chris. MIT, DSNI. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. He helped me with Deval Patrick.
He's here in Boston?
No,
Exactly.
where you at now? I know you was out of the country.
I'm out of the country now. I'm at an artificial intelligence conference in the Caribbean.
Okay.
But I had to call in.
Okay, you're my man. What's going on, man?
Yeah, no, again, loving the conversation, and I'm glad you brought up the booklet because we are working in Arkansas to try to recreate the same thing.
Okay.
Because one of the big challenges is that people don't understand civics anymore, and they don't understand who has power,
Right.
and that politics is really about the allocation of resources.
Right.
And so we have to push those to allocate resources in the way we want them allocated.
Right. Thank you, man. I appreciate that because a lot of folks don't realize there's a lot of the vote is in City Hall and the State House. I remember when I worked in the administration, I found all this money, trusts and foundations that are allocated for the community. That's outside the now it's $58 million budget. And folks don't know about it. So when you have a community center like Melnia Cass, that all of a sudden was $400,000, now it's $4 million, they fixed it up. That money was allocated for the community, and folks don't even know. So, so-and-so did this,
Sure.
elected official. In this particular time, they're elected, but they did not know this was allocated from the start.
So can I ask, is it Dr. Jones? Johnson?
Jones.
Okay. So obviously Arkansas has a huge black community as well as.
I'm having a hard time hearing her. So
Can you hear me now?
Repeat it, Ron.
Okay.
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So Arkansas has a huge black community, and so does Tennessee. And what we're seeing in the South is that while on the ground in the local elections, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of black state reps or city councilors or even mayors. But when you get to the federal level, the delegation is mighty white. So what are you all doing down there to engage black voters to get on the federal races?
Yeah, no, love that question. So I think what I heard you say, you broke up a little bit, but what are we doing at the federal level or from the federal delegation?
Yes.
Because we're represented by folks like Tom Cotton.
Right. I didn't want to say his name. I try not to give the devil too much credit.
I'll say it. Look, and I actually want to, I'll answer that, but I want to pick up on what Ron said earlier. So I ran the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative. I was a volunteer there, then on the board, then executive director after John Barros left. But more importantly, Ron and I were on the ground in the neighborhoods, and all those principles I took back for Deval, and all those principles I took back to Arkansas. Now, one of the things that we realized that our congressional delegation is not only useless, but they are harmful to us. Mm-hmm. And so I actually formed a PAC after my campaign that focused on recruiting candidates for those 4 congressional seats we have in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And the way we did it was, instead of a smoke-filled room, we did a nominate your neighbor process. So we went around the state and asked Arkansans to nominate who they wanted to talk about building the bench, nominate who they wanted to see as their congressional representative.
Yeah.
We vetted those people, and then it's called Vortex. And Vortex endorsed 4 of them, and we are supporting those 4 candidates right now. Because what we wanted to do was, again, engage people earlier on in the process and find higher quality candidates that could run against some of these current congressional delegations that are harmful to us.
Gotcha.
And the last thing I'll say real quick is that we're also actively working with a number of different groups to organize and to get people out. Because Arkansas is, I always say, we're not a red state, we're a non-voting state.
I like that.
Right.
3 million people, 900,000 voted in the last election, 1.2 million could have voted but didn't.
Wow.
So our largest block are non-voters.
Right.
And we have to engage those non-voters, and we do it by doing things like Dr. Vote.
Right. Well, Dr. Jones, let me tell you, we're going to have you on. We're going to have you calling in time to time as our strategist, commentator from Arkansas. So I really appreciate you calling in from the Caribbean. Democratic nominee, Dr. Chris Jones. And by the way, the person he was going for the seat was Huckabee, who worked with Trump. Yeah. So anyway, we have another caller.
Real quick, Ron. Real quick.
Okay.
At some point, I'd love for you all to talk about how folks in blue states, like Massachusetts, can support folks in non-voting states like Arkansas.
And you know what? And I'm gonna call you,
Mike.
Yep, I'm gonna call you and see how we can work something out. But we'll talk about that. Caller, you're live on Boston Black News.
Yes, good morning, Ron Bell. This is T. Michael Thomas.
Hey, what's up,
from
T.
the
Michael?
People's Academy.
Right, how you doing, brother?
I'm in the fight.
All right, you
I
fighting?
have a question. Huh?
Keep fighting.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I had a favor. I'm sorry of you to ask your guest. I know your guests don't know me, but I have a favor to ask her to ask the elected officials.
Okay.
What's the downside in financially supporting the People's Academy to build a trade school on the corner of Quincy and Warren Street?
That's your question.
Yes.
He said
If
he
she
wants me
could
to ask
please
that.
ask,
Okay. We're gonna
especially the black elected officials.
thank you for.
What's the downside?
Okay, thank you, T. Michael, for your question.
Thank you.
And Jaquetta, you're gonna ask that.
I'm happy to.
Okay.
I might need to talk to T. Michael first. I just don't advocate for everybody.
Okay. All right. We have another caller. Thank you, T. Michael. We have another caller live on Boston Black News. Caller.
Is that me?
Yes, you.
Hey, what's up, Ron?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good morning. I didn't get a chance to hear most of the dialogue, but I know you guys talking about
Bishop
politics.
Dickinson.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's Bishop. Oh.
Okay. I just had to get it, You know,
I thought they told you. I thought they told you my name. So.
Well, Pastor Wall's over here. He's trying to give me, these signs. We're going to have to call the bus or something. The short bus.
What's up, Bishop?
Yeah, so listen, I just wanted to say thank you to Quetta for your consistency in dealing with politics and political engagement. As you know, Ron Bell is one of our favorite gurus in that space, and we realize that voting is something that we should hold more sacred and dear, especially black folk. And I think that we need to do all we can to encourage people to get out and vote, because sometimes we see people complain, but they're not a part of the process. They're not voting, And T. Michael, he mentioned about his training program,
yes,
which I think he's doing a great job, and the politicians need to support it. And I guess one of the questions I asked you is that when we see other communities put demands on their elected officials and things happen real quickly, why is it that the black community, we have to march and protest and do all these other things in order to get somebody to hear our plea in regards to some of the economic injustices and et cetera, et cetera?
That's a great question, Bishop. Do you want nice or do you want honest?
Right.
You at the altar. You got to be honest.
So here's my response to that. I think we are enamored with our black elected officials. We love this whole idea of we got somebody in there and that's all that matters. And we stop once they get elected. We don't hold them accountable. And I know that I've talked about this several times around people being caught up in the celebrity of elected officials. And so if you're living in Newton or you're living in Wellesley and there's dirt on your street, these people call their elected officials and remind these elected officials that they put them there.
Right.
And they hold them accountable and they tell them, listen, if you don't get this done, we'll see you at the polls in November. Not us. We either don't come out to vote or we're like, well, we got somebody up there. We want to keep supporting black folks. We have had some detrimental people in office that have done really bad things to our community and for our community that look like us. I often tell people there are black folks who talk black, live white, and think green. And so those are not our people.
Right.
Those are not our folks.
Right.
But we'll keep them in office forever and a day. And I just want to give a shout out to Rep. Gloria Fox, who was an amazing state representative, but when she retired, she retired.
Right.
She did not come back and say, I'm going to dance or play puppeteer to these new elected officials. She got out of the way and she bowed out gracefully.
Right.
And so we love that for her. And that is why she will always have my respect. These other people who come in and want to stay relevant, they're a problem. They're detrimental to our community.
Okay.
So thank you for that question,
Wow.
Bishop.
Thank you so much, Bishop, for calling in, and I hope that answer was.
I hope so. You know, I try to be respectful when Bishop's on the line.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Thanks, Bishop.
the phones are ringing off the hook. 617-282-0685. We're here on Boston Black News. Jaquetta Van Zant.
Keep calling.
Keep calling in.
Yeah.
We have, I believe, Colette Phillips on the line.
Oh, sweat. This is a big deal. This is a big deal.
Oh, it's just big.
Yes,
This-
Colette's calling in to talk to me. This is a big deal.
Queen of Diversity.
Right.
All right.
Now I
Kavina.
gotta have my game on.
All right, go on. Game on. What up, Colette?
Okay, I just want to give Jaquetta such a high five.
Aw.
This sister is just, pardon the word, Reverend,
Yes.
badass. Badass.
That's a compliment
Honest,
coming from
And
yes.
she tells it like it
Is
is.
she something?
You know, and let me just tell you, she is so spot on. We cannot be out there criticizing and talking if you're not willing to call your elected officials, if you're not willing to hold them accountable and ask for transparency, you don't have the right to criticize.
That's
Right.
You know, shut up.
That's
if
right.
you do not have, if you are not going to call them when things aren't going well, we sit around and we tend to complain and blah, blah, blah. That is not going to do it.
That's
and
right.
the other thing I want to just say, I don't know how many people knew that Jaquetta worked with the mayor, first black mayor of Framingham.
That's right.
That's how I met her.
That's right.
So I have known her for a while.
Uh-huh.
And what you are seeing here is what she has always been.
That's right.
She's always been somebody who advocates for us and who speaks truth to power.
That's right.
And
Colette,
we
don't
need
get me
more people
crying
like
up in
her.
here.
I want to see her on a national. I want to see her have her own show on MSNBC.
Listen.
There you go.
She
Manifest it, because my
She
God
does.
don't play about me.
All right now.
You know, because this is the kind of young people we need.
Right.
We need to lift up our young people, celebrate them, and I'm so proud of you, Ron, for just giving her the
Oh yeah.
platform.
That's my little sister
speak.
there. Yeah.
And Jaquetta, you keep doing what you're doing, sister. We
Thank
need
you.
your voice.
Okay.
You know
And
I adore
I so
you.
agree with you on the whole thing of AIDS. What does AIDS have to do with it?
That's right.
Right.
People are out there complaining. We have to vote for our best interest.
That's right.
And I will tell you, Donald Trump and the MAGA people are not for black people.
Not
okay?
at all.
Woo!
I'm just saying.
Well,
So Biden is the best chance we have right now. He picked a black woman to be his vice president and put the first black woman on the Supreme Court.
That's right.
And you judge people based on past behavior.
That's
He
right.
was also a very strong advocate against apartheid.
That's right. That's right. And you know, Colette, you have said it all. And I'm going to encourage people to go to Colette's Facebook page.
Right.
Because she talked so eloquently and wrote so eloquently about the importance of us not focusing on Biden's age.
And her book.
And
Read her book.
The
Yes.
Includers.
I'll put her book link on my Facebook page. You guys have got to read it.
All right. We have so many callers. Colette, we're gonna call
Yes,
you later because we're gonna get her on NBC too.
Jaquetta, you look fabulous.
Thank you. I love you.
Sister look fabulous. I love that white top.
Thank you, girl.
Okay. Okay, girl. Caller, you're live on Boston Black News.
Good morning.
Oh, wow. Woo. Go ahead, Pastor Dan.
As they say, here we go.
Now we got
All right.
the other view of a.
Oh boy, do we ever?
Oh,
Okay, let's
but
start with
let's
a couple of things.
This,
go.
okay.
Let's start with a couple of things.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the fact that Kamala Harris is the first quote unquote black vice president is a shame. Is an absolute outright shame to anybody who understands how the moral calling and what needs to happen. What we need in that office is not somebody who's literally slept her way to the office.
and this is not
All right.
me. This is not. This
Absolutely
is
not.
actual
No, we're not doing
verified
that.
fact.
Nope, we're not doing
So,
that.
as
You are
far as
not-
I'm concerned,
absolutely
she is a
not going to
disgrace
disrespect any woman.
as a representative for a black
Pass.
female
You need
to
to
be in
stop.
her office.
You need
Okay,
to stop.
pass.
You are not going to disrespect
Okay.
any woman in my presence, and you're certainly not going to disrespect any black woman in my presence. You don't know the facts, and that is not a fact, and that is absolute
Actually,
rhetoric.
it is.
It is not. I just said
Actually, it is.
Pastor
No.
Dan, do you have
Yes.
anything else to add?
Well, when it comes to what, in fact, has the Democratic Party ever done for the black people? In reality, it was the Democratic Party that supported slavery. It was the Republican Party who abolished slavery.
What book
And
is
as we
that
go
in?
through, as we go through history, and again, this is not emotion.
It
This
is.
is actual fact.
It's not.
Okay.
The Ku Klux Klan was the enforcement arm of the Democratic Party.
Dan, are you working?
Yes.
Let me say this. You have a lot to offer. So why don't you? Are you working on a book? Okay.
So Ron, can I dispel
You want to
a few of these?
respond,
Yes.
and then we're going to go to our
But
next
Can
call.
she respond with
I'm
facts and not emotion? Because emotion doesn't care anything about facts.
Okay, we're going to respond with fact.
You're so clever. That's funny. So first of all, let me say when slavery was brought
I can't hear her.
When
I can't hear
slavery-
her.
When slavery was brought to this country, there was no Democrat or Republican Party. If you are a political historian, you'd know that. So there was no Democrats brought slavery here. And if you also want to be clear, we didn't even have the whole 50 states at that time. We were still in colonies. That's number one. Number two, what you said about the Democratic Party never doing anything for people, it was a Democratic president that started Head Start. It was a Democratic president who brought in Medicare and Medicaid, of which many people of color still benefit from. And that president was Lyndon Johnson. So if you're going to talk about what the Democratic Party has or has not done, you need to do your facts, bro, because you are absolutely wrong. And if we're going to talk about other Democratic presidents, let's talk about Clinton and how he brought in criminal justice reform. You need to start with the facts. You're the one that's talking about emotion. You are absolutely wrong. I will not engage you any longer. Goodbye.
Okay, so she didn't buck
Okay.
her head, and we're going to move to our next caller.
Next
and
caller.
we don't
Well,
want to.
see, there you go.
Next
There you
caller.
go.
Bye.
You don't want to have a legitimate conversation.
I just had one. I literally just dispelled all
Caller,
your
you're
myths.
live on Boston Black News. Hello.
Hello, good morning. How are you, Ron?
How are you? Who's
I'm all right.
calling?
Clinton Graham.
Hey, Clinton, how you doing?
I'm all right, sir. How are you?
Good, good. What's going on?
Nothing much. How could I follow up that last caller?
Be your own self.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, sir. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself, and I wanted to thank Jaquetta for coming on and giving her perspective.
Okay.
As you know, I'm running for a state representative of Milton and Randolph,
Okay.
and
I'm sorry,
I'm
who's
just,
this?
welcoming, to your
Cliff
point
did-
and to Jaquetta's point, the opportunity for elected officials to be held accountable, to bridge the divide. A quick little verbiage about me is, my parents were born in Jamaica, came here in the 70s. I was raised in Milton since 1987. Attended all public schools, graduated, got a scholarship to Stony Brook University, and actually Worcester Academy before. I played professional football for 7 seasons in Europe, came back as a correctional officer in a jail for 2.5 years. Was on the warrant committee for the town during the COVID crisis, which was unprecedented time, and also was on the Blue Hills Union Technical High School committee for the past 4 years. My mother was a social worker, followed the MBTA bus operator, and I'm just trying to
Thank
put
you.
the priorities of the residents over the
And you're running
over the
for
policy.
state representative.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Oh,
and
did he have
do
a
you have a
question?
question?
Oh.
I just wanted to pretty much commend you guys for doing what you're doing.
Okay.
For being a voice. That's what's important right now, to be a voice and a beacon for everybody.
Right.
And make sure
And,
you're heard.
and we're going to get you on the air. I know you've been on Boston Black News before. We're going to get you on the air, Clifton, as well as the State Representative Brandy Fluker Oakley. We're going to get you. We may even try to have a debate here. So
is he
be
running
prepared.
against Brandy?
He's running against
Oh,
Brandy.
got you.
Yep.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah, we're going to have.
Nope, I'm not running against her. Nope.
Oh.
You're running for the seat. I get it.
I'm not running against Brandy. No.
Oh, you're not. Which seat?
No.
Okay.
I'm running. I'm on the ballot.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a primary.
Okay. So is
I'm
this
running
the
as an
seat?
independent. Yeah.
Oh, is this the seat for Bill Driscoll?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Oh,
Okay. So it's another seat in. Okay, gotcha. Okay,
Yes.
good.
'Cause you know-
Okay. Well, we'll still get you
we have
going. We'll get to whoever the other candidate. We have to go. Take care. Thank you for calling in. Calling you live on Boston
Because
Black
Brandy's
News.
my soror. Just
I
so you know.
got you. Right. I just kind of want to fit that. Calling you live on Boston Black News.
Good morning. Good morning, Ron, and good morning, Jaquetta. It's Dr. Yvonne Spicer.
Hey!
Spicer.
All right.
And I just want...
Our favorite mayor.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Ron. And as you know, I'm beaming with pride over here and listening to my young sister who often reminded me, Dr. Spicer, get out of the way of my greatness and step aside. And I am so glad that she is doing what she's doing.
Yes.
But what I wanted to call and ask her, how do we get more Jaquettas in the game? How do we get more young people involved and stay involved? Because at the end of the day, we all have to pass the baton.
That's right.
And we need to make sure we're building that farm team. So I'm going to put that out there. And right behind Colette, I'm giving you all the love, Jaquetta. And I agree. You need your own show.
Don't you forget me.
No, but I'm here. This is the home team.
Okay.
Yes.
No, when you start getting that check.
Listen, I owe Chase Bank for the mortgage. So.
You got to pay it off.
Thank you so much, Dr. Spicer. You know I love you, and the reason why I sit here is because of women like Dr. Spicer. And
Yes.
Even though she's from Brooklyn, she reps Massachusetts. You know, she's so. So full of life and so full of love. And
Right.
so there was never any time I couldn't come to her and say, this is what I'm thinking. What is your opinion? And she'd give it to me truthfully.
Yes.
All the women in my life do that. Colette, Gail Jackson Blunt, Karen Holmes Ward, all of these people who surround me with love. But so the answer to that question is, I'm always willing to speak to other young women and bring them under my wing because you know, I plan to retire in like 5 years. So there won't be.
Do you know how many people say they retire and just keep on keeping on? That's why it was good that you gave props to Gloria Fox because she got out of the game.
She did.
But there are some folks that are retired that just keep on moving.
There's a need for relevance there, you know. But I often, I will always have coffee with someone. I will always go to dinner. I get a lot of girls who hit me up on Instagram asking, can they talk to me about something? Absolutely. I never want to be that woman that says, I don't have time to talk to you. Because when these women continue to be Jaquetta Van Zandt or someone else, that's the legacy I want to leave.
Right.
You know, I can't take everything with me. When they close that lid on that box, that's it. I can't take pride and integrity and all the money and the houses. I can't take any of that with me.
Right.
But if I could leave a legacy where people feel like they were able to come to me and I opened the door for them, that's really what's most important to me. And the women in my life, like Dr. Spicer and many others, have done that for me. There was a couple who did not, but they still ring my phone and I will still go to dinner with them.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm never going to turn down a free meal.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Spicer. And I know when you was running for mayor, you came on Boston Black News, and I really appreciate you calling in to kind of give credit to my sister here because we're gonna make sure she get on NBC. What is it? NBC,
MSNBC, CNN,
one of them,
like
one
all
of them
of them,
national media outlets.
Y'all hear that? Simone Sanders, do you hear that?
Is that the person that does the hiring?
No, Simone Sanders has her own show on MSNBC.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to get on her show.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, you just send her the link. Thank you for calling in. So I want to talk back to you about what you had mentioned before about folks getting out of the way and the intergenerational exchange, the importance of passing the torch, training your replacement, because it's so important, and particularly with this upcoming election.
Yeah.
In 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes left, so why don't we do it in a minute?
So I think I'm going to speak just specifically for our community because we are violators of this. Boomers feel like they have put in the work. They
Right.
lived through a very tumultuous time in this country. They cannot be post-racial because they've seen too much. In one decade, they saw Martin, Malcolm, RFK, and JFK get their heads blown off in front of their wives, oftentimes,
Right.
on national TV. And so they wear those scars. Black folks wear the scars of the Civil Rights Movement. White men wear the scars of the Vietnam War. White women wear the scars and benefit from the women's movement. And so they cannot be post-racial, or they cannot see beyond their own entitlement.
Right.
And so now, here we are decades later, and they are still in power.
Right.
And most of them can't let go of that power because this is all they know. They know being stuck in this kind of fishbowl, and they like it.
Right.
And the problem with millennials, my generation, is we tell truth to power. And we're not afraid of that. We don't have to. We're the most educated generation in history. Most of us chose not to have families, so we have, loads and loads of money. And so we don't owe anybody anything.
Right.
And boomers don't like that because they don't want to be told what to do. The problem that we have with this clash is boomers and millennials think the same way. They just won't admit it. And
Right.
so because of that, we're now in a silo,
Right.
and we can't get out of it. We're just spinning in the same place, and it's affecting legislation. It's affecting voters. It's affecting the way our world is going to look in 20 years.
Well, you said it all.
Good.
Jaquetta Van Zant, thank you for coming in.
you.
This has been an awesome broadcast.